We're
we have
here
more
though.
problems. So excited to see
We're
you
here. So
and
excited to
to go
see
ahead
you
and get
too.
started. We have been chatting already, so we know what some people are struggling with. We know how much sleep they're getting. So, Nada, how did you sleep last night?
I do wear a wearable, so
Okay.
I track it, and I thought I slept pretty horribly, but then I looked at it, I'm like, okay, not too bad. So I think, that would also be good to talk about, like what our perception. It's not just
Hmm.
sometimes it's the perception versus the reality, and I think there is studies
Exactly.
even that show that if you think that you slept bad, or if you tell yourself that you slept badly, then it actually does affect your health and your mental state and act and sleep. So it's kind of a cycle that we also need to break. It's just that mental aspect as well. But I'll let you lead and I'll interject here and there because sleep is so close to my heart because I've struggled
Love
with
it.
sleep for a very long time. So
Mm.
it's always been kind of chasing this unicorn, which I think I've managed to somewhat at least see, not quite capture, but at least it's there in the horizon. So a lot of the things that I've implemented personally have worked.
Love
Um,
it.
and sleep, as I'm sure you'll talk about, is not just like this thing that helps us feel better and perform better and, have more energy, but it impacts our long-term health. It's such a crucial component of our cognitive function, our future cognition as we get older. And, God forbid if you're somebody that is has a history of Alzheimer's and dementia in the family, like you need to focus on sleep and strength
Absolutely.
training and nutrition,
Yes.
like
Yes.
those main components. So it gives me chills, but because I don't know if I've shared this with anybody, but I hope my mom doesn't listen to this because she gets a little bit scared. But
Oh.
looking at my genetic makeup, there is a very slight increase in the chances of Alzheimer's, like very slight. My
Mm.
doctor was like,
Mm.
"Don't worry, you're doing all the right things. You're working out, you're eating well, you're focusing on your sleep." But when I heard that, it became that much more important that I hone this in and I am
Absolutely.
really focused on without going crazy. Like none of these things
Hmm.
are to make us go the opposite end where we're like extremists now and
Exactly.
now we're like creating issues, but keeping that
Hmm.
fine balance. Okay. I'll
Exactly.
let you, you can see I'm passionate about this, but go
I
for it.
love
And
it.
I'm
I
so
love it.
excited to have you here with us today. And I'm sure so
Thank
many of,
you.
of the We Rise ladies and beyond just We Rise are like looking for some answers, which you'll have for us.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think it is so impactful to hear real experience with it from someone who struggled, who's now implementing better strategies and also what that means for your future health. I think luckily we're starting to shift for people understanding that it's not I'll sleep when I die in hustle culture. Like sleep is so crucial and so critical to your overall functioning and health, but it's that fine balance. It is putting just enough effort and energy into it that we're optimizing things, but without going overboard and letting it take over. So, oh no, why is this happening?
Is your Wi-Fi connection strong by any chance? Okay, you're good. You're back on.
Yeah, it is. I don't know what's happening with this. Okay, let's see. Hopefully this continues. But let's go ahead and just get started. So I want to introduce myself briefly. I am Dr. Angela Holliday Bell. I'm a board certified physician. I'm also a certified clinical sleep specialist. I'm a mom to a now 14-month-old son. And that has some unique sleep challenges as well. But I'm also a recovered insomniac. So I can relate to you, Senada. I am someone who has always loved sleep, but as I went through my medical training, started to suffer from insomnia and went from not having time to sleep to not being able to sleep even when I had the time. And it was absolutely one of the most stressful things I went through in my life. It
Mm,
impacted every single area of my life. I was stressed, I was on edge, it was impacting my marriage, the way that I was showing up as a doctor. And that's when I knew I had to change something. And in the process of researching sleep and putting into practice the things I was learning, I started to understand just how important it was, just like we talked about for everything. It was more than just feeling tired versus feeling awake. And once I started to improve my sleep, it changed my entire life. And that's when I knew that I had to help other people do the same. So that's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do. And there's nothing that I'm going to talk about during this talk that I haven't already done and am continuing to do to continue to improve my sleep. So I absolutely practice what I preach. We are all on the same page here. So I want to get into talking about how sleep affects recovery. And I want to mention some things that you kind of touched on because they're so, so important. I think oftentimes people view sleep as this inert process. You go to sleep, everything shuts down, you wake up and it shuts back on. But that could not be further from the truth. Sleep is actually a very active process. And there are so many important biological things that take place while you're sleeping that allows you to function at your best and optimally when you're awake. One of those being muscle and tissue repair and DNA repair as well. So DNA damage done during the day is repaired while you sleep at night, decreasing your risk of things like cancer. Later on, growth hormone is released while you sleep at night. So we talk about building muscle, all the hard work you're putting in at the gym. Sleep is the other half of that, right? You really build and rebuild those tissues that are being, intentionally damaged. You repair that overnight to help them be stronger. Hormone regulation is a big process that occurs while you're sleeping. So a lot of people don't realize this. When you're sleep deprived, the hunger hormone ghrelin is actually released in higher quantities, while at the same time, the hormone that signals that you're full, leptin, is released in lower quantities. So you're actually hungrier when you're sleep deprived. You also are more likely to eat foods that are bad for you because in a state of sleep deprivation, you value instant gratification. It is much more difficult to think through and reason through certain choices. So think about how you all may have felt after a night of poor sleep. You are much more likely to reach for some donuts and some things that feel good than the fruits and vegetables. And there's a biological reason for that. In
Mhm.
addition, sleep deprivation triggers your cortisol release, your stress fight or flight response. Because your body says if we're not taking time to dedicate to this very important process, obviously we're under some sort of danger or threat. So let's be prepared, let's arm ourselves, let's increase cortisol and adrenaline so we can be prepared to respond. But obviously, cortisol turned on all the time leads to inflammation all the time, can put strain on your organ systems like your cardiovascular system, increase your risk of high blood pressure, heart disease, and also decreases your insulin sensitivity. So many things. There's such a fine balance that happens while you're sleeping. Someone said, I know I'm way more hungry the next day when I don't sleep. Absolutely. The other thing is your immune function. So your immune system functions at its peak while you're sleeping. When everything else can kind of shut down and your body can focus on releasing enzymes and cytokines and all the things you need to not only prevent infection, but to recover from infection. All of those things happen while you're sleeping. And I always like to give this example of a study that really illustrates this point beautifully. There's a study that followed about 154 healthy participants over a 2 week period. And during that time, it just asked them to track their sleep. At the end of the 2 weeks, it brought them into the lab and exposed them to a rhinovirus, which is a virus that causes a common cold, and then quarantined them and monitored them to see who actually developed symptoms of that virus. And it found that those who slept less than 7 hours per night in the 2 weeks leading up to the exposure were almost 3 times as likely to actually have symptoms. So runny nose, cough, congestion than those who slept more. And the only difference was their sleep. That is really the power of sleep. And then I want to talk about the brain piece that you hit on, because again, it's so important. So when we're awake, we have like this debris in this almost, you can think of it as like trash that builds up, for lack of a better term, in our brains. And while we're sleeping, our brain's maintenance system kicks in to sweep up that trash. One piece of that is amyloid proteins. Oh, what a cute puppy. And amyloid proteins are the things that lead to Alzheimer's. So, just as you mentioned, we're starting in research to see this connection between the lack of that maintenance system that happens overnight due to insufficient sleep and the increased risk of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. How many of you have like not gotten a bad or not gotten a good night of sleep and you woke up and you're just irritable, just everything irritates you. You're like, like don't breathe too hard. Like everything is just more you're just more irritable. And that's because sleep impacts your mood too. So your emotional centers communicate with your emotional regulatory center at night, and it allows you to have better control over your emotions and decreases your risk of mental health conditions like depression and anxiety.
And there's
And then Go
I,
ahead.
on the when it comes to like the to recovery or prevention of injury, I'm sure you have some data when it comes to that as well. Like I heard that they did a study, and I won't remember the exact numbers, but they did this, I think on the military, and if they slept less than like 6 hours, so 6 hours or less, increase their risk of injury by like I don't want to misquote it, but I'm pretty sure by like almost 600%. Like it was crazy, like the risk of injury from lack of sleep.
Absolutely.
While those are extreme, perhaps situations, it just goes to show you like how important it is, even
Absolutely.
in
And
injury.
exactly. They've done similar studies on athletes. And just as you said, I found that getting poor sleep, like the day before a game or a practice, led to a 2 times increased risk in injury because the growth hormone, the tissue repair, the inflammation, all of those things contribute to your body's ability to maintain itself and to prevent injury. So it really does impact those things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think hustle culture, while working hard and achieving your goals, I think is really important. I think hustle culture has directed us into onto some paths that are not necessarily the healthiest paths for us long
100%.
term. And if not now,
Absolutely.
long term for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing is that it's not sustainable, right?
It's
And you can only really go for so long before your body is going to tell you to slow down. And sleep is one of the ways that you build resilience and you recover against those things. So I know you mentioned wearables. As somebody else mentioned, like I think the Apple Watch. So does anyone else have a wearable? I personally use the Aura Ring. So I do think that wearables can be great. You do have to use them responsibly, I say. Um,
exactly.
so, for anyone who uses a wearable, I want to talk about what they can tell you and what they can't tell you, and really what to do with that data. So, they can tell you things like sleep duration. I think it's helpful, right? Use it as a baseline. But when it comes to sleep, duration is one part, but quality is the other part. So, it tells you a piece of the picture. Just understand that that's not the full picture. And then sleep stages is a big one. So, especially recently, everyone's obsessed with REM sleep. How do I get more REM sleep? And I get that question all the time. And what I want to say is stages are important, but the wearables are still not there yet when it comes to really parsing those things out. So I would actually say to not even fully pay attention to the sleep stages breakdown. They're getting better, but they're just not there yet. And so you're not really basing that off of fully accurate information. The other thing is your body is so sophisticated in that it will spend the amount of time, generally speaking, in the stages that it needs based on what's going on for you. So, for example, if you're sick, your body will spend more time in that deep, slow wave sleep. If you've missed a night of sleep or you've had a short night of sleep, your body will have what's called REM rebound, where it spends more time in REM sleep. Now, there are a couple things that do directly impact your sleep stages, and we'll talk about that later. But understand that it's more important to focus on the full picture, how much sleep you're getting, your quality sleep in these specific sleep stages.
Mhm.
A lot of them have sleep scores. Again, can be helpful for spotting patterns. If you're someone who is, driven by those kind of numbers and wants to just see yourself improve, it can be helpful as long as you don't get too caught up in the specific numbers. It can talk about nighttime awakenings. That can be helpful. But again, certain movements overnight can make it under or over calculate that. But the big thing is consistency. Sleep consistency is where these things really shine. Drawing your attention to what you're doing, how your actions impact your sleep. Are you going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time? That's really where these things come in handy. So it's really about trends more than a single night, is how I recommend using them. Look at them globally. Take a step back and see when I worked out that day, how did I sleep that night? And am I going to
Like
sleep
that.
at the same time most nights can be helpful.
I like that. I like actually making notes of like, okay, what actually did I eat for dinner so that
Exactly.
you can see what causes you to sleep better or worse, because that can have an
Exactly.
impact as well. If you're having chocolate, like for some people that is stimulating. Like for me, that's extremely stimulating. So I have to stay away from chocolate as much as I love it, or cacao or whatever that is. So
Mhm, mhm,
making notes of that is really important. Yes. And as you mentioned, like working out late will most likely affect your sleep. Perhaps not everybody, depending
mhm.
on how you recover, but most likely will affect your sleep.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It's really about looking at the full picture. What did I do? What are the habits and things that I've done? And then how has that impact my sleep quality score and all those things? Now, the one caveat is there's something called orthosomnia, and that is when you get so caught up in the specifics of the sleep scores and the metrics that it causes you sleep anxiety and makes your sleep worse. So if you're someone that looking at the numbers and looking at all the minutia makes you anxious, I actually recommend not using it because there is such a thing as doing too much. So use it globally. And to go back to your point about the studies, there was actually a study done that had the sleep, the wearables give people an incorrect sleep score. So it said that they slept worse than what they actually did. And then they subsequently felt worse. So there is something mentally, right, about seeing a poor number and now you're feeling worse, and vice versa, feeling like you slept well, even if you didn't, and now you feel better. So you have to work on your mindset around sleep and just use the numbers as a trend. Absolutely the
Almost like
placebo
a,
effect.
yes, almost like taking a scientific approach to it. Okay, is it's like, okay,
Exactly.
these are what
Yes.
the numbers are telling me. What can I derive from this, and what can I change? Versus like, okay, now I didn't sleep well, so now my day's gonna be shitty. Pardon my
Exactly.
language, but like, it's that self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. But it's and it's more than just that. Is like what you're manifesting for your day, if you will, if that's
Exactly.
what you gravitate towards. So be a
100%.
scientist, be curious about
Be
what's happening
curious.
and what's leading to that, and change accordingly.
Exactly. And Anna said, so yes, buy it. Is it worth it? It depends, I think is the answer. Unfortunately, like I said, I have an Oura Ring. I use it every day. I love it because I love to just stay on top of the trends. And like you said, I'm curious about the actions that I did and how that helped me sleep. And I like that it reminds me, hey, your bedtime is coming up. You might want to start winding down. But it doesn't make me anxious or stressed. So if it does for you, then it may not be worth it. So everyone is a little bit different. But I think when you're thinking about setting yourself up for good sleep, it's helpful to have an understanding of what determines how you sleep, what drives your sleep. And there are two main processes. Most people are actually probably familiar, at least a little bit, with the circadian rhythm. So it's a roughly 24-hour cycle that dictates when you feel awake and alert, usually sometime in the morning. Most of us have a post lunch dip. We start to feel more alert in the evenings and then not as, less alert as we're sleeping. But there's also a sleep drive, and that works very differently. The moment you open your eyes, your sleep drive builds, 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 builds. You fall asleep, you sleep it off, and then it starts over. Both of these are working at the same time. And the things that I'm going to talk about will help you kind of take advantage of them so that they work synergistically as opposed to against you when it comes to sleep. But then you also need to know how much sleep you need in the first place. And we kind of touched on this at the beginning. But one of the most common questions I'm asked is, well, how much sleep should I be getting? And my answer is it depends because sleep need is like shoe size. There's no one size fits all. Most of you have probably heard the recommendation that you should be getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. And while that's true on average, it's just that an average, meaning it won't actually apply to everyone. I like to compare it to the average woman's shoe size in the US, which is somewhere between an 8 and 8.5. But plenty of women wear size 9, 10, etc. So if you wear a size 10, but you're trying to squeeze into a size 8 because it's average, probably going to be uncomfortable, right? Same thing goes for your sleep. You cannot squeeze your sleep need into the average if you truly need more. So it's important to determine what your number is. Now, I want you guys to tell me what you think your sleep need is. We talked about what you're getting. I want you to tell me what you think your sleep need is. Senada, do you have an idea of what is your sweet spot? What's your number that you need to feel good?
For me, I think it's more like the recovery aspect of it. So
Okay.
or and the restorative. So if I've gotten a certain number of hours of restorative, then I feel better, than if I spent 12 hours in bed. I'm exaggerating, but I try to go to bed at like 10, the latest,
Okay.
10:30, between like
Mm.
9:30 and 10:30, let's say that, and then wake up
Exactly.
at around 6:30. So I guess what
It's
is
okay,
that?
yeah.
Yeah. So it's in that range of
Like eight and a
7 to,
half,
to nine
eight.
hours, eight, yeah, 8.5, 8.5. Because I am trying to push how much of the restorative sleep I can get in that time block.
Love that. And you hit the nail on the head in that I mentioned before about sleep duration, but sleep quality is actually even more important. So it's more important to have good restorative sleep than it is to necessarily sleep for a long time, in addition to knowing what your number is. I'm a 9 hour girl. I need 9 hours to feel fully rested. I think a lot of people don't realize that that can be normal. There are genetically long sleepers who sleep closer to 9 to 10 hours. And I think a lot of people have been made to feel guilty about that or lazy. But if that's your sleep need, that's your sleep need. That's hardwired in your DNA. And it's nothing to feel guilty about. about. You just want to make sure that you are prioritizing that. There are some genetically short sleepers who need 4 to 6 hours, but there are way fewer of those people than people think. And yeah, I agree when you say, oh, no wonder I need 8 hours and my boyfriend needs six. Yeah, it's different, right? But if you don't know what your sleep need is, one way I recommend figuring that out is taking what I like to call a sleepcation, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is a vacation that is based solely around your sleep and really listening to your body's needs. So ideally, you're taking 5 to 7 days where you have no other daily time constraints, getting up for work, taking care of kids, and you allow yourself to just fall asleep naturally and wake up naturally as well without an alarm clock or anything like that. For the first few days, you'll be sleeping off what we call sleep debt, and that's amount of sleep that's built up through the week that you've missed out on. So if your sleep need is 8 hours, but you got 6 hours, you built up 2 hours of sleep debt. Your body will try to repay that to a certain extent, but after a few nights, you'll find that you're falling into this rhythm where you're falling asleep, waking up at the same time, feeling refreshed and restored, and that's going to be reflective of your sleep need. And honestly, I think this is just one of the most luxurious things you can do for yourself, and something I think everyone should do at least once in their life.
That's such a great
Just
idea. Never thought of a sleepcation. Like such a good
yeah.
idea to do this for yourself.
Absolutely, because some people have been sleep deprived for so long, they don't know what they're sleeping. They're like, I don't know. I'm tired all the time. I have no idea. Is it 8 hours? I don't know. And so this is a way to kind of get back to that. And there's something magical that happens when you spend time dedicated just to sleep, just to restoring yourself. Like so many of us have been on the go for so long that that is something that it feels unfathomable, and your body will try to recreate that feeling once you actually dedicate time to feeling rested. And I agree, re-rise sleepcation I think sounds like a great idea. So once you know how much sleep you need, then we can talk about prioritizing that sleep. One of my favorite ways to put this is, instead of thinking of sleep as an ending of your day, start thinking about it as a beginning of your tomorrow, and who you want to be and how you want to show up tomorrow. When you think about it that way, you really understand what it means to prioritize it, to put it first, because sleep is a 24-hour process, as we'll talk about. It's more than what you do at night.
Such a, I like, it took me a second to kind of put two and two together on that. It was like, okay, it's your tomorrow starts the time at the time that you go to bed, because
Yep,
this is how you're going to show up the next day. How you
exactly.
sleep is going to be part of your next day. That's incredible. Yeah.
Yes. So that's what keeps me going. That's when I'm like, I have to protect my bedtime, because I have to show up and I have to be a good doctor. I have to be a good mom. I have to be a good wife. I have to be all of these things. And I'm so much worse at all those things when I'm sleep deprived. So I want tomorrow to be a good day. Let me go to bed on time tonight, is how I think about it. Um, but then, practically speaking, there is one single greatest habit. If you do nothing else for your sleep, the one thing that has the greatest impact on your sleep, I want to know if you guys have an idea of what that is. So drop in the chat the letter that corresponds to what you think. So is it A, screen time before bed, B, the time you wake up, C, managing stress and winding down, or D, what you eat before bed? Tell me what you think. And again, judgment-free zone. Feel free to, just put your best guess
Yeah.
out there. Senada, do you have any guesses?
I mean, it's all of it. What would be, I mean, some studies show that like the wake up time impacts, how well you sleep, because your circadian rhythm starts, I guess, the not starts, but it starts to reset the time that you wake up. But I think it's like hard between screen time or managing stress and winding down. Those are like
That a
probably
lot of people are
between
saying
A
that
and
A,
C.
C.
A. You want a
It's all of the
letter from
above.
me? Gosh.
No, you don't have to give a
I
specific
think
letter. I'm gonna
C,
use the
because
answer.
C is part includes A.
True. So you know what's funny? So a lot of people put A, C, all of the above. All of the above is true, but there is a single greatest habit. And Sonata, you actually hit it on the head without knowing it. It's actually the time that you wake up in the morning
Oh, there you go. I
is
had it right.
the
Didn't
best.
second guess myself.
And your explanation was spot on. So the thing that trains that circadian rhythm, so I showed you guys that graph that shows when you feel awake and when you feel sleepy, the thing that trains that the most is the time that you wake up. That is the single best habit for your sleep. And it's not just for you to feel sleepy, it's also feeling awake and alert during the day and having energy during the day. You teach yourself when to release those awake and energetic signals and when to send those sleepy signals by anchoring your morning wake time. Now, I tell people this, and it seems simple, and it is, but I think where people get mixed up is forgetting that Saturdays and Sundays are days. But when I say every single day, I do include that because your circadian rhythm doesn't take weekends off, right? It needs that consistent signal. So if you want to sleep in, you can do so by about an hour. But when you do so longer than that, it confuses your circadian rhythm to know, okay, are we waking up at 7 or 10, or we're going to sleep at 9 or 12? And so you really want to keep that consistent. Single
You
brain
gave
is
me an
having
hour. I thought I had only half an hour of wiggle room
an
there
hour
in
is
the
okay.
weekend. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I was okay. You can nudge it a little bit
So
more by
not
an
till
hour.
11, which which I'll see some people around me do. I'm like, yeah, not the immediate family, but like, yeah. It's funny. That's hilarious. Okay. All right. Good.
And yeah, so that Elsa Lee, to answer your questions, you can sleep in sometimes. What about an hour? You really don't want to
An
extend
hour.
it
That's
more than
it.
that. Yeah. And then the second best habit is getting natural light exposure within an hour of waking. Well, ideally within 30 minutes of waking up. So light is a strongest factor that influences your circadian rhythm in a way that tells you to be awake and alert. So light is good. I think we talk about sleep, everyone like light is bad. No, no light. And that's true closer to bedtime, but it's just as important to have light exposure earlier in the day. So ideally getting outside, doing your workout outside would be even amazing, but taking a walk or at least sitting by a window while you do your morning routine can significantly impact your sleep. For the Hatch, Sandra, so yeah, so the Hatch has a sunrise alarm clock, and it actually is a more natural way to wake up because we evolved to align our circadian rhythms with the sunrise and sunset. And so it can actually wake you from a lighter stage of sleep. And if you're someone who has that sleep inertia, like a groggy, disoriented feeling when you wake up, a sunrise alarm clock can be a better way to wake up. So that's just a tip on that. But then understand that what you do during the day impacts how you sleep at night. I found in working with people and even some of my, sleep colleagues, when we talk about sleep, so many people just focus on nighttime. It's just bedtime routine, sleep. But sleep is a 24-hour process, as I've already said. So there's so much of what you do during the day that impacts how you sleep at night. And if you're waiting until nighttime, you've missed arguably the more important, roughly 16 hours that's going to impact how you sleep at night.
I was going
Um,
to say on that, just a quick note on the morning sunlight. Also like open all of the shades, make it
yes,
brighter. So it's like,
yes,
way brighter. So then your body knows the difference between nighttime when everything is like shades are down, it starts to get darker. And that starts way earlier than bedtime. It starts a few
yep,
hours before bedtime. And then as
exactly.
soon as I wake up, like shades up, I go, I have to brush my teeth. So like I'm like by the window, brushing my teeth by the window, looking at the sunlight. So like whatever tricks you can employ, because sometimes maybe you're like rushing and doing a bunch of things, but like just that will signal your body, like make it bright, make it light, go by a window, brush your teeth, whatever you have to do to signal, to send that signal to your brain. But yes, please go
You're
ahead.
right. And it is the contrast that's important. You hit the nail on the head that we really want to create as much contrast between day and night as possible. So bright. And what I also want to say, just real quick, because I'm in Chicago and I know someone else in the chat is also in Chicago. Sometimes during the winter, it is not bright when I wake up in the morning. And if that's true for you too, there are light therapy boxes and light therapy glasses that simulate natural light exposure that you can wear while you're getting ready during your normal routine. And it also will give you that same contrast and help you sleep better too. Um, and then, of course, we got to talk about physical activity during the day. So, when we talk about impacting those sleep stages, this is actually one that's been shown in research to improve that slow wave, which is a deep restorative sleep, is engaging in physical activity during the day. So, obviously, you guys are aware of the benefits of that. Strength training, in particular, of course, is a great way to be physically active and to improve your sleep overnight. You do have to think about the timing, but if you're going to be active close to bedtime, then you want to stick to low intensity like yoga, stretching. But being physically active is the most important thing. You do want to try to do that ideally every day. And strength training outdoors, perfect. 2 in 1. I love that.
Amazing.
Um,
Somebody
and
else,
then
before we move on, there was a question which I think would be great to address is like this person, Anna. I love going dancing 1 to 2 times a week and get home at 1 a.m. So
nice.
go to bed at 2, which is great. Like we want to embrace habits that bring us joy, that bring us into
Yes.
community that we love. Like life is not about like cutting out everything so that you can just be a robot. Like, no, I'm
Yes.
not for that. But I think to the note that Dr. Angela spoke to before, if you're sleeping in for too long, then that is definitely making you more tired, correct, Dr. Angela?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I always like to say good sleep. For me, good sleep is about good waking hours. So I don't want you to sleep well just so you can say that you slept well. I want you to sleep well so that you feel good during your day and you have the energy and mental clarity that you need to function optimally and feel great. And part of that is some trade-offs for what actually makes you happy in life. There are times that I'm going to stay out late and, with my husband or an activity, and I understand that I'm making that trade-off for that night, but it's a balance. And the more consistent you are with the great habits, it's kind of like nutrition, right? It's not like you can never have a donut, but you want to be consistent most of the time. And then, sometimes sprinkle those other things in. But just like you said, even if that's the case, still having that consistent wake time is what's going to be the most important. So if you get home late, you go to sleep late for whatever reason, still try not to sleep in more than an hour later, because now you're not trying to recover days and days later. You just get up at the same time, take a quick power nap if you need to, and then move on with your day. So that's an important point to make too.
Exactly. Great. Yeah, great.
And then a consistent bedtime routine. So now I want to know, what does your bedtime routine look like?
Oh, I like I mentioned before, I turn the lights like very low. I like to have like a candle going on in the bathroom so when I'm brushing my teeth, so then it's not like these bright lights. Just yeah, the bright lights just staring me in the face. Completely dark bedroom. I have a bed that cools itself. I think it's called Sleep Aid. I'm
Lovely.
not
Yeah,
associated
eight
with them
sleep.
by Eight Sleep. I'm not associated with them, but I needed it because I get hot at night. Maybe maybe age, I don't know. I wear a sleep mask. Yeah, I try not to look at
Beautiful.
the screens for like minimum an hour before bedtime, but I know that ideally a little bit longer, but minimum an hour. So that's kind of pretty
Beautiful.
much, yeah, that I try also not to eat at least a couple of hours before I go to sleep, or I stop eating at least 2 hours before bedtime. Ideally longer, but sometimes the
Sometimes you just gotta
snack
eat.
cravings are real. What else? So it's yeah, stopping eating 2 hours before bed, turning the lights down a couple of hours before, and then like an hour I like turn everything down, have just like candlelight in the bathroom. Bedroom is really dark and cold, the 60, 68, 69, and then the bed
Perfect.
that actually is cooling. Shades are down. I have a sleep mask, and then I take some supplements, which I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that, but I'm sure we'll get to that. um, that's
I
it.
love
That's
your
it. This is
routine.
a little bit.
I love that. That's
Sometimes
like top
sometimes I
tier.
meditate too. If I feel or if my like
Mm,
wearable is showing that my stress levels are high, I can feel my heartbeat, when it's like higher and like, oh my, something's going on. I haven't wound down to where I need to be for me to go to bed because we can't just expect to be like wired and like boom, go to bed. It's like I heard
exactly.
this wonderful analogy once. It's like, you're driving a Ferrari at, I don't know, 150 miles an hour, and then you're trying to park it in the garage. Like you can't do that. You got to like slow down, and then park. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So like sometimes breath work and meditation, even if it's for like 5 minutes, slowing everything down really, really helps.
Yes, and you're so right. First of all, I love your routine. That's like top notch, top tier routine. And your routine works.
I'm not perfect, but
Yeah, no, and no one is, and that's okay. But you have
not
a lot
every
of
day.
things in place. So I always recommend choosing at least 3 to 4 activities that are soothing to you. Everyone's routine is going to look a little bit different because what I find relaxing may not be what you find relaxing. The key is to avoid stimulating things like, scrolling social media and, watching TV and things like that. But I like to light a candle. I like to make it my me time. I say play it up, make it a time that you look forward to. For those of you who said at the beginning of this talk that it's racing thoughts that keep you up and you can't shut your mind off, you really want to create this transition time from your mind being active and problem solving and task jumping and doing all the things during the day to it calming down and slowing down at night. And your bedtime routine is a perfect bridge to that. The other thing is when you have a consistent routine, even if it's 15, 20 minutes, I don't care what you can do consistently, your brain starts to connect every piece of that routine to sleep and it allows sleep to happen more efficiently. So when Senada starts to dim the lights, lights and we're turning on that candle, and her brain is like, oh, it must be time to sleep. Let's go ahead and release some melatonin because you've trained your brain. Sleep is so mental. It's so much more mental than people think. You've trained your brain to associate those aspects of your day with sleep. And so it allows sleep to happen more efficiently. Doing a meditation is great. Same way. If I'm very stressed, I'll do a sleep meditation. So I have a blackout sleep mask as well, but it has Bluetooth headphones in it, like very thin headphones you can't even feel. And I'll do a sleep meditation beforehand if I really just need to kind of calm myself down. Another thought for people who have racing thoughts that keep them up, doing a brain dump activity can be helpful. So often you have those racing thoughts because we are so busy and distracted during our days that we don't give ourselves time to process thoughts. So when you're in bed and it's quiet and the distractions of the day are gone, your brain's like, okay, can we please think about this report that we have coming up and dinner we have to make and we have to go grocery shopping and all those things. So you sit down and give your brain dedicated time to process those thoughts. 15, 20 minutes, you just write down everything that comes to your mind, action steps next to it, really give your brain the opportunity to process those thoughts. And then it won't feel the need to do so quite as much when you're in the bed.
Mm.
You also mentioned something, Senada, that was really important. The light and dark strategically is what I say. Light is not inherently bad. It's actually great for sleep. Dark is not inherently good, because you don't want darkness during the day. Use them strategically. As much light as you can during the day, but at night, and I like what you said about people don't realize that you should be dimming the lights earlier than you think. And that's true. So when I talk to people about avoiding light exposure, they always think about, oh, I just can't be on my computer, or oh, I just shouldn't be on my phone. Just existing in normal overhead room lighting, like we probably all are right now, within a couple hours before bedtime, has been shown in research to delay your natural melatonin release by up to 90 minutes. So you need to start sending those cues that melatonin needs to be released and things are slowing down much earlier than you think. So table side lamps, lower the lights. I have dimmers all throughout my house for this reason. Red light is a great alternative because it has less of a stimulating effect on your melatonin. But all of those things are important to think about.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you hit a lot of the points for your sleep environment. It needs to be dark for all the reasons we mentioned. Even small amounts of light, even little bits of light, your retinas can still detect while your eyes are closed. So you want to not be able to see your hand in front of your face at night. That's how dark your room should be. So, like I said, we both use blackout masks to accomplish that. Blackout curtains can be helpful. You want to keep it either quiet or have a continuous sound, like a white noise, brown noise, whatever color floats your boat, because changes in volume or tone of sound is what can be stimulating. So if you sleep with the TV on or there's like talking in the background, those things can impact your sleep. And cool, as you mentioned. So your body temperature has to decrease by 1 to 2 degrees in order for you to transition to sleep and to maintain sleep. Your body temperature naturally rises in the early morning hours, and that's a sign to your body that it's time to wake up. But what that means is if you're someone who struggles with 3, 4 a.m. wakings, you don't know why, if your room temperature is too warm, you could be sending signals too early to your body that, oh, it's time to wake up because it's getting warm. So you want to keep it cooler than what you may even think. Any other thoughts on that? It sounds like you have a pretty nice setup already.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, I noticed before I had the cooling down that I was waking up more throughout the night and I was, and you realize like I was even sweating. So I'm like, okay, that's got to
Mm-hmm.
change.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
definitely like when I travel and I forget my like sleeping mask, it makes a difference as to
Yes.
like how well I sleep because it is true. Like if you are able to see your hand in front of you, like that can wake you up. That can have a waking effect for sure. Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
I also know.
And now I do want to talk about these substances. We're going to talk about some that interfere with sleep and then some that can help with sleep. And this has been brought up already. Let's start with alcohol because someone mentioned that as being the struggle for them. So let me speak to why people use it for sleep first. So alcohol is often used as a nightcap. People will drink a glass of wine or two. And it makes sense because alcohol is initially sedating, meaning that it will typically make you sleepy. The problem is that it's broken down very quickly within about 3 to 4 hours. And after that becomes a stimulant. And so it can lead to middle of the night and early morning wakings. And this is actually one thing that wearables are pretty good about picking up. Some people are like, no, I sleep great after I drink a glass of wine, but I still feel tired in the morning. And that's because alcohol does impact REM sleep specifically. So it is a REM sleep disruptor. So you want to avoid it close to bedtime. Ideally, you don't want to have it within 3 to 4 hours of bedtime. And you want to limit your dose, right? So maybe 1 glass of wine instead of 3 glasses of wine, but it absolutely can impact your sleep quality.
even one glass of wine. I pretty much cut out alcohol completely, with the exception of like here and there. But yeah, a glass of wine, forget it. Like I see my heart starting to race. Like my sleep gets affected. It's pretty clear to me now. So
Yeah.
unfortunately,
But you know what's
or
important is having
fortunately,
those insights, is recognizing that. So then you can make
yeah,
the changes and you know the trade-offs, right? You know that, okay, I'm gonna have a glass of wine, but I know I'm gonna be tired tomorrow, and you know the
exactly,
kind of cause and effect of it.
yeah.
Um, and then caffeine, we have to talk about this. So let me first start by saying I'm a coffee lover. I love coffee. Like aside from my son, sleep, it's my son and sleep. Coffee is third, and my husband's a close fourth. Like I love coffee. He knows his place in line. This was clear before we got married. But you do have to drink responsibly, just like you gotta use your wearables responsibly, sleep responsibly. You have to drink responsibly. And the thing with caffeine is that it has a long half life. On average, 5 to 6 hours, but for some people, it's closer to 10 to 12 hours. And the half life is the amount of time it takes for half the amount you consumed to be excreted from your system. So, for example, if it's 2 p.m., you're tired, you get your favorite cup of Starbucks that has 400 milligrams of caffeine, which is, not uncommon. Then at 7 p.m., you still have 200 milligrams of caffeine in your system. And at midnight, you still have 100 milligrams of caffeine in your system. So it just takes a long time to be cleared. Even if you're someone who feels like caffeine doesn't wake you up, we have studies that show that caffeine can cause you to remain in the lighter stages of sleep as opposed to cycling through those deeper stages, affecting your sleep quality. So again, you can drink it, just drink responsibly. Try to limit how much you have. So if 100 milligrams is enough to give you that boost of energy, consume 100 instead of 400. And then try not to have it after 12 p.m., generally speaking. Everyone's a little different. Some people, even earlier than that, it's going to impact you. So just be mindful of how it's impacting you. And you mentioned chocolate that impacts your sleep. Think about the other things that have caffeine in it that's not just coffee, right? So it's not always just coffee. There are other things that have caffeine that if you eat or consume too late can still impact your sleep.
Yeah, and some people like myself are very caffeine sensitive. So then
Mm-hmm.
I think for myself and other people that are sensitive, the half-life is even longer. It takes longer for my body to clear out caffeine than others. I mean, there are some people that have certain genetics that they'll be able to drink caffeine before sleep and then go right into sleep. That's just like their genetic composition.
Yeah.
And that's just not me. And that's what a lot of people have to figure out. Like, what is that for me? If you're getting the jitters and if you experience that like really fast adrenaline rush, but then a crash, they're probably super
Mm-hmm.
sensitive. So you should
Exactly.
cut down, eliminate, or think about just having it very early in the morning.
Exactly. Or like Sue says that she loves coffee, but she stopped drinking it after lunch and slept better and deeper and drinks decaf.
Yeah,
Perfect, right? There are ways
perfect.
around to still enjoy, one of the loves of my life, but also to do it responsibly. And someone
So
said in my
somebody
case,
says the coffee makes them
what? So here's
sleepy.
the
I
thing:
I
coffee
wish.
Coffee relaxes me, I found. So I love it. It's just like a soothing ritual for me. And I am a fast metabolizer of coffee. So just like you mentioned, some people of caffeine, I'm sorry. Some people I've never gotten that feeling of like, oh, I feel so awake now that I drink coffee. I've never had that. So it's funny because people used to always say, well, then what do you do to feel awake? And I was like, I sleep. I make sure that I go to sleep and I feel awake. But again, what I realized, I still don't drink it close to bedtime because of the studies that show how it affects your sleep quality. It still can make you be in the lighter stages, even if you don't feel like it wakes you up. So just something to be mindful of. And then
Yeah,
I wanted to end it off by talking.
similar to like you said to alcohol too.
Yes.
But yeah, that people think that they're sleeping really well. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
for example, my partner, he some weeks ago, months ago, it's like I've like slept so hard, and then he looks at his wearable. His recovery, restorative sleep is horrible. So it's not that you just pass out and you wake up in the morning and you feel like you slept great. That's not the indication
Exactly.
of good quality sleep.
At all, because it's all about how you cycle through those sleep stages. Are you getting into the deeper stages, the N3, the REM sleep, and certain things like alcohol, even if it knocks you out, it's gonna disrupt that REM sleep and will disrupt your sleep quality.
Mhm.
And then lastly, I want to talk about helpful sleep supplements. And I know you kind of mentioned supplements earlier, Senada. I know we both agree on magnesium, so I'm actually going to start with
Oh,
melatonin
yeah.
because I think it's one that people are probably more familiar with, and I find the most misused supplement when it comes to sleep. So I mentioned melatonin already many times in this talk. It is a naturally produced hormone. We naturally produce melatonin in our brains, in our pineal gland. It is a hormone of darkness that sets the stage for sleep. So the way you improve your natural melatonin is using light and dark strategically. Actually, that light exposure in the mornings helps your melatonin at night because light increases the release of serotonin, which is a feel-good hormone. Serotonin is needed for melatonin production at night. Decreasing, dimming the lights at night also improves your melatonin release. Now, supplemental melatonin can be helpful during times when your circadian rhythm, that 24-hour cycle, is thrown off for other reasons. If you're traveling across time zones and now your bedtime is way different than it was before. If you've been on vacation and you've been living your best life, going to sleep much later than normal, and now all of a sudden you have to reset your schedule. Certain people with sleep disorders where they naturally fall asleep later, like their circadian rhythm is shifted. And so we want to try to get things back on track. Melatonin can be helpful for that. But typically we recommend lowest effective dose. 1 to 3 milligrams is all an adult needs. If I ever take melatonin, I take 0.3 milligrams. Like that's you don't really need more than that. And then short term until you do other things to get your circadian rhythm back on track.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think people have for the longest been overdosing on melatonin.
100%.
And you see the 5 milligrams and the 10 milligrams. I'm like, that's, isn't it true that your body produces, like, is it like 1 milligram and that's all you need?
Less than that. Our body
Less
produces
than one
like
milligram,
3 micrograms.
Oh my,
Like
okay,
we like
wow. Okay,
it's
I'm way off, but
so
just to show
little.
like how much is, it's that like knocking out effect that people are wanting, and that's not healthy because as with any hormone, to my knowledge, it starts to replace your natural occurring hormones. So you don't want to rely on this external hormones. You want to train your body to produce themselves, to produce it themselves. Our
Exactly. And
body.
I think people miss that part that melatonin is a hormone, right? It's not this like inner thing. Like it is a hormone and you do need to use it wisely. I've seen people take 50 milligrams and that almost makes my heart
Oh my
stop.
gosh.
And what I've seen
Wow.
in those cases, this is anecdotally because I can't find it in the research, is that those people actually end up having even more sleep struggles. And I think it's because they're oversaturating their melatonin receptors. And so it leads to this kind of opposite effect. So small dose, small dose is all you need if you're going to use it. But I want to know your experience with magnesium because I know that we kind of chatted before and it sounds like that's something that you're into. So tell me your experience with that.
I do use magnesium glycinate, but it seems from your direction here that I'm maybe a little bit under, so I need to up my
Oh,
dose. But I do
okay.
use Mactine as well, which is a mix of threonate, and it does have like elemental magnesium in it, a little bit of glycinate as well. So in addition to just glycinate, and also L-theanine. So
Okay.
those are
Yes.
like my three things. So it's like magnesium glycinate, the Mactine with threonate, elemental magnesium, and then L-theanine. Yes,
Mhm.
that's pretty much
And
it.
that's a common kind of sleep blend. So L-theanine and what you said elemental magnesium and what's the other thing in there?
Just the Mactine is just the blend of
The Maxine.
magnesium threonate, or yes, magnesium threonate, and then elemental magnesium. Yeah.
Yes. So those things have shown some benefit for sleep and research. I think there are certain things that we need more research to like fully be behind it, but they have been shown to have some promising benefits in terms of sleep. But magnesium glycinate in particular is a one that I absolutely love because there is a robust amount of research to support its use. I think
Mhm.
where I like to have the caveat is, some people take it thinking it's a sleeping pill and it's just going to knock you out, and that's not really the case. Magnesium is needed in over 300 neurological processes in the body. It helps in the production of the neurotransmitter GABA, which is the brain signal that kind of slows everything down. So it relaxes your muscles, relaxes your nervous system. Athletes use it in recovery. Magnesium is a mineral that we need, that we can only get from foods or you can get in supplemental form. The foods that contain it are like legumes and green leafy vegetables and things that we just may not be consuming as much as we should. So having it in supplemental form can be helpful. I personally take it every single night, and these are the just typical recommended daily doses: about 310 milligrams for women, 420 milligrams for men. But if you're pregnant, if you're menopausal, those needs actually go up. So I would, consider speaking with your medical provider about it. But I think it's actually personally a great supplement that helps to set the stage for just deeper, better quality sleep. All right. And so that was really the main thing that I wanted to cover. The way the sleep drives recovery, how to use trackers wisely, watching the trends, and then the small, consistent habits that impact your sleep. But what I really want to leave you with is this, because it's my absolute favorite quote, and I really think it speaks to that mindset piece that we talked about. Is instead of asking myself, have I worked hard enough to deserve to rest? I've started asking myself, have I rested enough to do my best work? And when you look at sleep as something you're deserving of and something that helps you to be better in all the things that you do, it really changes your brain chemistry around sleep. And you understand why it's so important to prioritize it, to fill your own cup first, and how it helps in all the ways that we already talked about. And there are ways to get better sleep. And also know if you are doing these things or you're not seeing that improvement, please seek help. There are sleep disorders, there are other things that require some deeper treatment, but understand that you don't have to wait until you're fully broken down to seek help. Like you deserve good sleep, and all the great things that come with it. And so absolutely prioritize it and get help if you need it.
Absolutely. And I was just going to add to that, there's a couple of other things that I'm sure, for maybe we're lacking time, but when it comes to going from going to perimenopause or like in your late
Mm-hmm.
30s, people start to
Mm-hmm.
see a shift in their hormones. So I think
Yep.
it would be helpful to also look at your hormones. And sure, they
Absolutely.
fluctuate throughout the month, but perhaps speak to your doctor and test them at different points of the month. I know for myself, my sleep is different a couple of weeks prior to before my period.
Yep.
So Steve, that's true also for yourself, and then speak to your doctor to see where your hormonal levels are because that affects our sleep. And then the other thing is your nutrition. I can't keep saying this enough. Like start your day with, 20 grams of protein, um,
Yes.
at minimum 20 grams of protein. And if you're not a breakfast person, which I know most women, at least that I speak to, they're like, I can't eat breakfast. Put it in your coffee, put it in your matcha. That's what I've started doing. Like I make my
Love
matcha,
that.
my big thing of matcha, and then I reserve a little bit, put it on the side, put my protein, chug it, and then I can continue on with enjoying the rest of my matcha. But like, yeah, and that why that's helpful is to send signals to your body that okay, I've got you. I'm providing some nutrition,
Yes.
so that you're not maintaining those levels of cortisol and stress
Exactly.
high throughout the day.
Exactly.
They spike, we wait, we do what we need to do, and then they need to lower versus being constantly in that fight or flight, which then impacts our sleep at night.
Exactly. And it's a cycle. And then you don't get enough sleep and it increases your cortisol more. And then you're sending these signals. And a good point too for like someone, even for you, and then someone else said, oh, those snack cravings are big. If you're craving a snack before bed, a bedtime snack that's rich in protein and complex carbs can be helpful because protein helps to keep you satiated throughout the night so that hunger pangs are not waking you up, and then drops in blood sugar. You don't want your blood sugar to be swinging either way overnight because that can also lead to middle of the night waking. So that's another reason to keep your nutrition balanced as well.
Exactly. I love that. I love that you brought that up. I was going to almost forget about that, but that strategic snack at night is really important. And
Absolutely.
look at your day, because a lot of people have like cravings at night, and what happens is that we've starved ourselves during the day. So
Mm-hmm.
making sure that, and what we're going to crave at night, we're going to crave sugary things.
Sugary. Yep.
So make sure that your nutrition is dialed in as best as possible throughout the day, starting the day with 20 grams of protein, and then not starving yourself during the day to then like leave everything for dinner because you've got to, and then the cravings start to hit post dinner, all the sugary cravings. So carbs are good. Have your protein, spread it throughout the day, nurture your body, send those signals that you're safe, that you're taking care of yourself, and your body will reward you with that rest and relaxation at night.
I absolutely agree. 100%. And so I
Amazing.
think yeah,
This was so good. It was so
thank you.
informative for me. I loved it. And as the chat box has it also, everybody that joined loved it because there's a lot of a
Great. I'm so
lot of
happy. I'm so
messages,
glad.
but I think we touched upon pretty much all of them. Um, this this will be available. This presentation will be available via email. So I think the team will send it out and they'll also post about it so that people can access this because I think this is such important information. And Dr. Angela, please just tell everybody where they can find you
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they want to
absolutely.
further like
So,
work with you and just
yeah.
your amazing content.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I want to touch on Josephine's question real quick. What's the difference between magnesium glycinate and citrate?
Oh,
Magnesium is
good.
chelated to many different molecules, citrate and other things. And glycinate in particular, it has its own separate benefits for sleep. So that's the one that's going to be best. And it's also easier on your stomach. So magnesium is something that we also use for constipation. And so certain ones like citrate can cause more GI side effects, and the glycinate is easier in your stomach, and glycine separately has benefits for sleep. So just kind of like a double dose for your sleep. But thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you so much for your kind words. You can connect with me. Probably the easiest way is my website, thesolutionissleep.com, has all the ways that we could work together. I also try to provide helpful sleep content on my Instagram at thesleep_MD. Happy to connect further, talk about any other questions or things you guys may have. And it's just been a lovely time working with you all.
It's been such a great time. Thank you so much, Dr. Angela. Appreciate your knowledge. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. No problem. Thank you
Have a
guys.
beautiful rest of the day.
You too.
Bye, everybody. Enjoy your day.